Hi, everybody. It's Professor Celeste, and I am really excited to get into week 4, part 13 through 16 course objectives here in our course ECE 603. We are at the end here. This is your last video to watch, so please make sure that you read the chapters and definitely spend some time in Canvas, which I'm going to move over to right now, and kind of go over our last week's assignments and discussion. Okay, so this week, just like every other week, you're going to come to Canvas and you're going to go to the specific week, such as week 4. That's the week we're in. And then you're going to look at the lesson overview, and that's just going to tell you what we are going to focus on this week. This is also where you're going to find this video that you're watching now. So it's very important that you look into each week's lesson overview, because in there is where you're going to get a good start. This week, we are going to do the discussion, as you do in any other week. And also that is due Wednesday, and then replies are due by Saturday. So it's important that you spend some time in replying to your peers on different days in order to get full credit. Lastly, we have our final assignment. This final assignment is a little different and possibly different than your usual final assignments. This final assignment, you're going to create a PowerPoint presentation, and you're going to include these topics and discuss your perspectives and share with me what you've learned throughout this course. You are more than welcome to share other areas that I did not specifically name here. There's so many areas, right? So it's impossible for me to go into each one, but you're more than welcome to highlight some specific areas that you would like to talk about and share with me. This is just a one-on-one with me presentation that you're going to present. So again, more information is always great. The idea is for me to better understand what you have learned through this course, and just give me some insight into that. After our meeting, you then will go and write a one-page reflection in regards to our meeting, what you learned, and how you'll use what you've shared in the classroom. And that's an important piece, because it's important that what you've learned, you then will apply it in the classroom. So I just want to make sure that you're well prepared for this assignment. You're more than welcome to ask me any questions prior to our meeting. So this week will look a little different in terms of our weekly live sessions. This is going to be considered our one-on-one session for this week. So we will not have an additional live session. And then also your practicum and portfolio details. So just making sure that you have submitted your school locations and that you are ready to go to start those hours and start collecting your information for your portfolio. If you have further questions regarding the portfolio, please reach out and I'll be happy to go into detail with you more one-on-one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now going through each of those details, but instead get back to our course objectives and why we are watching this video. All right, so this week we are going to focus on, I'm sorry about that, let me get out of there, the ability to meet the needs of growth and brain development in toddlers, preschool, and school-age children. We're also going to talk a little bit about the ability to plan a nutritious menu and on a budget. And then also understanding food safety and the need for safekeeping to avoid hazards. And then lastly, the ability to create nutrition activities within your lesson plan. So first, we have to understand the growth and brain development in toddlers and preschool and school age children, which is a very big range, right? So if we're talking about toddlers, it's very different than preschool, and then of course school age children. But ultimately, what we have to understand, starting with toddlers, is that toddlers are growing so fast, right? But they continue to need, calories, essential nutrition to maintain that growth and activity level. So if you ever notice any child for that matter not having the energy to do such sports or type of activities, it's important to kind of think about what their food intake is, what they're eating, because that really does have a lot to do with their energy level, right? Or even being over um excited or having too much sugar for that matter, of why they're so maybe different than normal time. So it's important to kind of know what they're eating specifically in your classrooms, and kind of monitoring that. Of course you can't tell a parent, right, what to pack their child, but what you can do is be a resource, and definitely provide some great suggestions on lunch ideas, or like I mentioned in my other slides, like a recipe book, or just or write them in your newsletters, just some suggestions, because although parents aren't asking, it's not to say they don't need the support. So definitely relay that helpful information, because we have to understand that children definitely uh will eat at different times. There's other factors that we have to consider when we're thinking about toddlers specifically. um where they're eating, what they're eating, the amounts that they're eating, and just really make sure that it's age appropriate, right? Because although as an adult we think large portions, sometimes that's a lot and that's like good. But we have to remember how small the stomach is for a toddler, right? Which is extremely smaller, right, than ours. So the amount of food that they're eating is going to look very different. Even very different than a school age child. So just kind of keeping that in mind. It also, it's important that you bring new foods, within your classroom so they can try it. Be mindful of allergies, of course, but kind of making it part of your classroom, which makes it fun and engaging, for toddlers, preschool, and school age children, um, which I think we have to kind of do more of. Another area to consider when it talks about food and intake, we have to understand the timing of the meal. So if a child's not eating as much at a specific time, of course we have a schedule, right, within the classroom. So we definitely can't feed them all at different times. We have a specific snack time or lunch time, but maybe just remind a parent or suggest that they eat a light meal in the morning, or just kind of ask them for some support of what they're eating in the morning, because maybe they're having big meals, so then by snack time they're not that hungry, so they're not just eating because they don't want to. It also could be other factors. Maybe they don't feel good, maybe they just don't like what you're serving. So bring some different choices for them to choose from, which I definitely would ask parents to bring that. Of course we can't provide so many choices, especially in a school setting. But overall, I understand the challenge, when it comes to food. But what we have to really understand is from birth to 5, a child's brain is growing at a rapid speed. So even experiences that may seem insignificant to an adult, like meeting a new person or teach a child how to interact with the world around them, that is a whole new learning experience in itself. That's because the brain size and the shape are consistently changing in response to the encounters during this period. So everything they experience is a learning opportunity for them. Allowing them to have more self-help and self-skills exercises are of most benefit. Allowing them to do more for themselves, allowing them to make choices, allowing them to lead their learning, obviously within reason, having boundaries, but still having choices, because there is a balance that you can create with that. In order for children to know how to independently do something, they have to experience doing it, right? So simply as putting on your shoes, in order for children to learn to put on their shoes, they have to be allowed to put them on. So that then will require a little bit more time in the morning, for parents, or just kind of rearranging that timeline or schedule to kind of allow this process to blossom and to happen. At this age, they're also, learning to be competitive. They're learning to cooperate with other children. It's all a process that is happening, within their brain and how they're doing things. They're learning to count and read and draw and write and recite the alphabet. These are just quick examples, but there's so many areas that they are learning to do. And so it's important to create an environment where they are able to exercise all these great skills so they can learn in a fun, loving environment. And another area is just really understanding that reasoning that's happening, and they're so excited to ask questions and they really want to know the why in things. You ever hear any child ask, why this happens the way it does, or why does it work the way it works, or they have so many great questions. So when they do, please stop and please spend some time trying to help them understand why things are happening the way they are. That is a great teaching moment, not just for them, but for you as well, because they are so excited to learn from you and get this information. So even just asking about it is a big confidence that they have built or are building or continuing to build, to ask more questions. And that's what we want to encourage, is a lot of questions. The ability to plan nutritionist menus and on a budget. Well, we all know that it's helpful when we make a plan, so we just don't go to the store, because of course when we do that, we're going to want everything. So it's critical that you make a plan of maybe the week's dinner ideas or lunch ideas or all of it. And then you go in and you shop smart. So you would have thought about this ahead of time. You would have looked at different, I say apps because there's so many great like coupon options or discounts or whatever the case may be. But a lot of it is used during apps. So they're not going to always say be available right when you walk into the store. So just be mindful of that. And then making time to prep meals. So as much as we're spending money on the food, we want to enjoy it. We want to spend time. I would also include the children in this process. I would give them different areas to help with, not just, the cleanup part, which is a big part, because we have to practice that start and finish process. But they're more than capable of participating in the prep work. So please let them participate in that. That part can be so meaningful for them, because then they can also help you with their lunch when they're prepping for school. Include them in that. I definitely ask my son, he's 3 years old, and I ask him if he wants, specific fruits. So I'll say, do you want an apple, an orange, or pears? And then he'll pick, and then I pack that, or, so I change it every day, but he's also helping prepare his lunch as well. And I encourage you to ask parents to also incorporate that within that process. Next is understanding food safety and the need for safekeeping to avoid hazards. So we have to be mindful of the cleanliness around us. We have to be very careful with washing our hands always, making sure that the areas around us are clean often. And specifically when you're at school, using gloves, right? And I also encourage masks for that matter. Just making sure that we are not spreading germs, or making sure that we are trying to be as clean as possible. Of course, germs are everywhere and we can't stop that. But what we can do is just make sure that we're doing our part in washing our hands and making sure the areas around us are clean and sanitized. Next would be separating foods. So don't cross-contaminate. Be mindful of allergies. Make sure that you have allergy lists everywhere. Make sure you have them, obviously in the kitchen or in the area that you prepare food, in the classroom. I honestly would put them, especially if you have sensitive allergies, very specific. I mean, I've had children who've had a list of 20 allergies just for one child. And so it's definitely an important detail that everybody has to be aware of in the entire school. So not just your classroom, you have to know what allergies lie outside of your classroom as well, just in case you encounter those children or work with those children, and teachers as well, making sure you guys have an allergy list for yourself, which is very important. Next is, cook at correct temperatures, and refrigerate perishables. Never thaw food on the counter because bacteria multiplies quickly, and definitely don't want that to happen, right? Because then the food is no good. Should never leave any food out, especially food that belongs in the refrigerator. So what I like to do is, to make sure that all of these tasks are completed daily. I definitely create a list within my classroom where the teachers will check off, to make sure that we're all sharing these great responsibilities together. And so we mix them up. It's just communication daily with the other co-teachers, all teachers within that classroom. Maybe it's just you, but just making sure that you are being mindful of the food safety and the safekeeping, just to make sure that you don't encounter any hazards, within your classroom. Next is the ability to create nutrition activities for lesson plans. So this one is really fun because there's so many creative ways that we can incorporate fun activities to highlight nutrition, make it fun. And these are just some fun ideas that I've used in the past. And again, you can find a lot of these online. I always say don't reinvent the wheel. There's so many great ideas that others have tried that you can do. It's okay to use others' ideas when it comes to lesson plan ideas, just because it's great when others have done it over and over and over, and it's worked. So it's great to also have you do the same. Okay. So one is, eat a rainbow. So the idea is to roll a large 6-sided dice made from a square box with colored paper glued to each side. So each side is a different color. So you can paint it, you can just use construction paper, however it is best for you. But let the kids take turns rolling the dice. So when it lands on a specific color, ask them to share their favorite fruit or vegetable of that color. So I have some examples at the bottom. So if it rolls yellow, they would say something like pineapple. If it blue, blueberries, red, strawberries, etc. And the same thing for building a smoothie. You would use a dice, and then the child would roll it, and then they would add the following ingredients to the blender. So then you would associate a color with a fruit or vegetable. So this one's already kind of pre-planned, where the first one, they're kind of being creative with what they're sharing or what they're using as their favorite, right? So anyways, there's so many great, fun ways to incorporate lesson, plan activities, but also just be mindful of making it age appropriate. So making sure that depending on the ages of children within your classroom, you are creating lessons for them. So your lesson plans may differ depending on, year by year, depending on the children in your classroom. But then I also say it's okay to reuse, lesson plans. So repetition is great. So just because you did it in the beginning of the year doesn't mean you can't do it again mid-year or at the end of the year. So that is okay. I always feel like teachers think that they cannot reuse a lesson. But again, with small and young children, it's important to revisit a lesson that is something that they've done before. It doesn't only provide comfort, but it also provides an opportunity for them to share their perspectives or how they would do it, because they've done it before. So it feels good. And that's what we want to encourage when we're talking about learning. And lastly, just reiterating what we went over today. So the ability to meet the needs of growth and brain development in toddlers, preschool, and school-age children. The ability to plan a nutritious menu and on a budget. Understanding food safety, the needs for safekeeping to, of course, avoid any hazards. And then creating a nutrition activity for lesson planning, which again can be very, very fun. And please make it fun. And then I also encourage you, when you're done doing the lesson, sharing it with families so they could try it at home if it's a lesson that they could do at home. Because I think it's fun when the children can then show their parents what they've done at school, but actually go through the process as if they were in the classroom, which is so meaningful for not just the children, but also the parents as well. So fun, so fun. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much. Again, this is our last video. This is week 4 of ECE 603. Thank you so much. I'm Professor Celeste, and I will see you soon.